Hi everybody, this is Keith Curtis, and I'm going to demonstrate a script that I've just developed called Director. The purpose of the Director script is to facilitate theater of the mind play. I've been playing a lot of games lately that utilize theater of the mind more often than they do maps or gridded movement. And I thought that Roll20 really could use some stronger, better theater of the mind tools. And that's where the director script comes in. So you're looking at a blank screen right now. This is a page that I have created that is called Theater. Director will only work on pages that have the word theater, scenes, theater with an R-E because English. There's a couple of others, but they're in the help. And they'll tell you if your page is not named correctly. But the idea is we don't want to accidentally run the commands on a page that is used for another purpose. So these are special pages. Now, your players will want to probably zoom to fit for the best experience, but for the GM, you want to be a little bit further out. And I'll show you why. Let's get right into it. I'll just run through some simple things, and then we'll go through the interface step by step. So the first thing you do after you have installed Director is you put in the command !Director, and that will create a link for the Director interface. So we click on that. It's all based in a handout, and this handout is interactive and it updates automatically. So we are looking at a variety of assets and things in a table here. And I'm just going to quickly go through and do a couple of things to show you the general idea, and then we'll go through the interface step by step. So the first thing I want to do is I am in a scene called Environs in the Act High Harbor. These are acts, scenes, acts contain scenes. So this scene is called Environs. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set the scene. And what this does is this puts a backdrop image, your chosen backdrop image, on the map layer, so this can't be accidentally selected or moved. And if you want to have tokens on this to show that, oh, this guy's on the tower and this guy has climbed the rock in the background, they don't accidentally move the map. You might be able to hear it. There's also a soundtrack playing. You can assign a audio track to a particular image in a scene. Let's say that the environs of the city of High Harbor, there are three main places that people might be. There's the city itself. There is the dark and sinister Deadwood to the east, and the haunted hills to the south filled with dungeons. If you want to shift the action to another, you can set any of these images as the backdrop just by clicking on these two buttons here. And this switches the backdrop from city to Deadwood or to haunted hills. If for some reason you just want to highlight something quickly, you'll see that all of the images have also been placed on the map on the token layer so that the GM can easily access them for a quick click. So they can just use Shift-Z to show the image to their players. Or if they wanted to, they could drag it in, they could enlarge it. They can do anything they want with it. When you're done with this scene, you can wipe the scene or you can set a new scene. Let's set a scene that's a little bit more complicated. Let's go with the haunted hills themselves. These have a couple of other things besides we can reuse. You see that I've reused the paths of the haunted hills for the paths of eternity here, a place in the haunted hills. The third section, besides scenes and acts and images, are items. And items are any Roll20 asset that you think would be useful for that scene. That includes characters, handouts, tracks, audio tracks, macros from your macro collection, rollable tables, or what I call a variant, which is basically it's a character, but it is a token that refers to a type of character. So for instance, you might have the character sheet sage in your campaign, but 7 different tokens that represent 7 different sages with different names and different artwork. So a variant is basically, it's an instance of a character. And I'll get into how to assign those momentarily. But so for instance, I want to set this scene. All I do is set the scene, and it is set with a guardian statue. I'm thinking, that's probably a bit too far into the adventure. Let's make the Paths of Eternity the opening scene there, and that's persistent. That'll be the backdrop next time you come to the Haunted Hills. And you can see that we've got a little soundtrack playing there, or a musical track playing there. Abyssal Gaze by Tabletop Audio. That's in your My Audio. It is a freely available track. But you can see I've got some handouts. I have got some instances of characters, some variants that are placed on the board. Much like we had the images placed off to the right, characters and their tokens are placed on the board off to the left. Characters and their tokens are placed off to the right. Again, so you can drag them into the scene, or you could say, oh, there's this character who's sneaking about the Haunted Hills. They look like a Yuan Ti from their snake-like skin. And you can do a quick preview of that for the characters. Or, for instance, if you need to access the character, you've got the token and all of its token actions available. Also, if you click on that character in the list, it will open the character sheet itself. If you click on a handout, let's say that they've defeated the sneaky evil Sashara, and they discover an amulet of Dendar the Night Serpent on there. So I've got a handout for that. I can click on that, and there's a handout that I can share with my players. If I had wanted to, I could also have stored this image as an asset in the images, but this is something they're likely to take with them, not something that is a scene, that is a place or a thing like that. It's just an item. So I have a whole bunch of handouts. I have a couple of characters, and in this case, because Sashara had significant styled text in her GM notes, it was a little bit difficult to parse that while placing the tokens, so she is stored as a variant. Any token you can do as a character, you can do as a variant. I can also add a track, so I've got a track here. If I think, okay, it's not quite as creepy as it was, I'm going to click there to stop that track from playing, that automatic track, and I can start and stop a different track from playing. And you can see that it is now playing the much nicer Melandru's Calm. I can click that again to stop it. And then I have added a macro to this scene too. I have a feeling there's going to be an important roll here, so I have added Roll of Fate, which is just a macro I have in my macros. And all it does is it plays a little drum roll, and success or failure. If they succeed. But that's not part of Director. That's just a macro, and it shows how you can access a macro from the items column. So that is the general way that the program is, or the script is used. Let's go through the bits and pieces now. So let's go ahead and let's get that distraction off of the chat log there. Let's just hide those. All right, so I've got the director interface. I'm going to enlarge it just a bit here so that we can see everything. And you can see that in the first column we have acts. Acts contain scenes. Acts are basically, think of them as containers for a bunch of related scenes. Scenes contain a bunch of related images and assets that relate to a certain time and place that your characters will be interacting with the story, with the game. So I have, for instance, in the city of High Harbor, I have one set up for the environs, the areas around the city. I have a scene set up for various places within the city, wards of the city. I have a kind of a creepy tavern, an underwater themed tavern. I have one for the Sage Order, which is kind of a university, and then we have already seen the Haunted Hills. I have other acts. I have one set up for Village with streets, towns, and a pool for some reason. It must have been some test data. Some generic locations, like I have a variety of taverns that people can visit depending on what the theme of the tavern is. I have some good Underdark scenes. I have a world scene which contains a world act which contains a scene from a different city other than the campaign city. I have an extra planar one here, and I have one for organizations, the City Guard, or a coven of civic-minded witches. And each of those is already set up, so you can expand or collapse any act. You can also move a scene between acts. Let's say that I have a generic location. Let's say I want this tavern to be part of High Harbor. I want my taverns not to be a generic location, but to represent specific taverns within the city. So to move things or to edit anything on the page, there's an edit button up here. It's a lock button, so it's very similar to the way a lot of character sheets work on Roll20. You click that lock button and you go into edit mode. And you will see that most items, let's go to something that's a little more filled out. Let's go to the Haunted Hills again. So you can see that there are also edit buttons for the items. Items are stored in the order they are created, but grouped by type. And then you have a trash icon, so you can, for instance, I don't need that roll of fate there. I can click and that will just get rid of it. Or you can click the edit button. Say you didn't like Melandru's Calm, you want a different track, you can click that to assign a different track. And we'll get into how to assign things to these items in a bit. But we were going to go ahead and we were going to move taverns into High Harbor. I can move an act up or down, so I'm moving taverns down, but I want to move it up. And if I move it up past the top of the scene or move the scene up past the act that it is in, it will skip to the next open act. It is now at the bottom of High Harbor. So I can take us out of edit mode. You can also delete or reassign, or in this case rename any of the scenes or acts or images in the interface. So let's go ahead and take us out of edit mode. So I've shown you how to navigate and to make any scene active. Let's go ahead and create a scene. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to set this scene for the moment. These are all scenes from Hell. These are all assets that would work well for a campaign set in Descent into Avernus. So let's go ahead and we'll set that scene. We're going to stop the music. Also, if you don't want music to automatically play when you shift scenes, there is a mute button up here that will turn off that behavior. So it has placed the highlights. It has set the backdrop. Let's go ahead and we're going to delete that backdrop. I'm just going to go ahead and manually delete it. And it has placed a couple of characters, Kaliki the Night Hag and Carnell the Cambion. These are people who featured in an adventure where the adventurers went to hell. Let's go ahead and let's delete that. Let's delete this whole thing, and we're going to recreate this from scratch. So delete. All right, it has left the assets behind. That's good because I'm going to use them to create a new scene. But basically, to create a new scene, the first thing you do is you decide what act it's going to belong to. In this case, it's going to be extraplanar. We're going to click plus, and we're going to call this scene Hell. All right, so now we have a new scene, but it has nothing in it. So I just happen to have, let's go back to the token layer. I just happen to have all these graphics on the map. This is the way that you assign a graphic, by the way. You select a token on the map and you click Add Image. Would strongly suggest that when setting an image to be added to a scene, that when you drag it from your art library, and let's just go ahead and let's add a new one here. I think I have one for scenes here. Yes, scenes. We're going to add there. This is the cover of the Player's Handbook, which is available as an asset from Wizards of the Coast for fan publications and such. If I drag that directly to the screen, you can see it's all squished up. We don't want that because the data for the size of an image is not stored as metadata in your library, or at least not easily accessible metadata. So when you drag an item to the map, to the board, hold down the Alt or Option key if you're on a Mac, and that will drag it in its correct proportions. And that will be stored by director so that when it's placing the images, they come out either short and wide or tall and thin. So let's start adding some assets. We're going to go ahead and add this image. We're going to add this image. We're going to add this image. And we're just going to go through and we're going to add all of the images. All right, so you can see that they're all in there. None of them is set as a backdrop. But let's say that I think that this palace image here, let me give you a preview of that. I think that palace image would be a good backdrop. So we're just going to pre-assign that one as the backdrop. You can do that at any time. But to name them, we just click on the name, and we're going to call this one Palace. We're going to call this one Ichor Lake. We're going to call this one Hell Wasp Hive. We're going to call this one Merilith Fortress. And we're going to call this one down here, we're just going to call this, well, that's the battle vehicles. What did we call that originally? We called that Road Warriors. Let's just call that Road Warriors. Descent into Avernus is a kind of a strange module. And we can scroll down, and this one is used for Fort Knucklebone, and most of these places are in the Descent into Avernus campaign. So now I have set those up. I can just go ahead and delete those. The program knows what they are. And the last thing I want to do is I want to add a couple of characters. So I'm going to add these as variants because Kaliki the Night Hag doesn't really have a token or doesn't have a character associated with her. She was more of a plot device. Carnell has a character sheet. But it's let's go ahead and see if we can set that as a character. If it fails to set, then we'll go ahead and we'll reset as a variant. But let's go ahead and put Kaliki in as a variant. All you do to assign something is you select it on the board and you click what you want to assign it as. So for instance, with Kaliki, I wanted to assign her as a variant. With Carnell, I want to assign her as a character. Future Keith here. I was going to demonstrate adding Carnell as a character, but I forgot and made her a variant. I just wanted to quickly demonstrate that, yes, you can select this since it is a default token representing a character and add that as a character. We just type in the name to go right to the list. Carnell. Ooh. There we are. And we click submit, and there's a character. For the rest of the video, that's going to display as a variant, but I didn't want to go back and remake the end of the video. I'm now going to return you to past Keith, let's say that I also want a handout. I could click here and then you just choose a handout from your list of handouts. And that will put a button there that will open the handout. If I click track, I'm going to get a message here that no track is currently playing. Start a track before creating the track button. So I'm just going to play any old thing, let's say Abandoned Windmill or Abyssal Gaze. That sounds more appropriate. So now if I click track, because I have a track that is currently playing, it knows what to assign to that button. So I click that, and you will see that Abyssal Gaze by Tabletop Audio has been added. There's a little music symbol at the end here to indicate that it is currently playing. You can toggle whether it's playing or not just by clicking on the button for it. So now it is no longer playing. That little music button is gone. Similarly with macros, you can click macro and it will give you a list of macros to choose from. You can click rollable tables. It will give you a list of rollable tables to choose from. With the rollable table, let's see, magic item table. There we go. Oh, long-term madness. There, that's good. So there's something in here that can inflict long-term madness. Oops, that did not. Let's try that again. Oops. Long-term madness. Was that a table? Oh, that's, I'm sorry, I'm clicking macro. Oh, let's try that again. All right. Long-term madness. There's another bug. Similarly, you can click rollable tables and it will add a rollable table. You just choose the rollable table you want. And variant we have already gone through. Is the last button here, the magnifying glass, that's a filter. If I have a very long list and I only want to see the characters, for instance, I can choose character, and that also includes variants, and that will filter just to show those, or I can click back and show all types, and I am no longer filtered. Those are the basic controls. We also have, let's go ahead and set our scene. Let's go ahead and delete those, and let's set scene. And so you can see now that by clicking set scene, we have assigned our backdrop. We have all of our highlight images over here. We can switch as they go through the adventure. Oh, now you're at Ichor Lake. Oops, clicked that twice. Now you're at Ichor Lake. Or now you are seeing the Hell Wasp Hive, and you can see that because we used the correct height and width ratio when we set this, it knows that this is a tall image and sets it accordingly. And then we also have tokens over here for the two characters, or variants in this case, Kaliki and Carnell, and we can play this track, Abyssal Gaze, whenever we want to. Let's go ahead and play Abyssal Gaze. So now that it is playing, I can just go ahead and assign it to Palace. I can click that off. You can see that if there is no track assigned to an image, it's a little gray musical notes. If a track has been assigned, it is white, and if it is playing, let's go ahead and click on it, it is green. And you can see that it is green, it is playing, and it also indicates, because it's an asset over here, that it is playing over here. So you can stop it in either place. You can either click on the green music button, or you can click on the track, but the track is not really necessary in this case if we're just assigning it to an image. If I switch to a different image, that music stops playing because that music is not assigned to Hell Wasp Hive. But if I reassign Palace as the image, that track begins playing again. And again, if you don't want that automatic music, let's say that one of your players is having a hard time hearing what's going on, you can just mute the interface. And now when I switch from one to another, it will switch, but it doesn't begin automatically playing. A few more things about the interface. Down here we have dark mode and light mode. If you are sensitive, be warned, light mode is coming up and your screen will brighten. So this is light mode. Same exact layout, everything, just different color scheme, dark. You can also make a backup of your setup in case you want to use Transmogrifier to send the handout to a new game. You can make a backup. It tells me that it is created director backup number 2. I've already done this once in this campaign. And to restore, all I do is I click restore and I choose, let's go ahead and update the interface. I choose a backup and I can restore from a particular backup. Might have to restart if there's only one possible choice to make before you have refreshed the game, but that's just the way that Roll20 queries work. It doesn't realize that there are 2 director backups, but it normally gives you a drop down here. If you run into any problems where something just doesn't seem to be working right, this little repair button will go through the database that stores all of this information and just look for any orphaned tracks, orphaned images, and just does some general cleanup. If you need any help, if you want to see the documentation at any time, you can click help, and there is a full documentation of all of the buttons and what they do. You can also set that to a handout in case you want to reference it outside the game. Let's exit help. We have the set the scene. We have wipe the scene, which just clears everything. Set the scene, sets it back. Stop audio. Sometimes you don't remember what's playing from where and you just want to stop all the music. Boom. Stop audio. Stops everything from playing. We've seen the help. We've seen the edit. This last button, JB Plus, if you have installed my Jukebox Plus script in the same game, this will open the handout for that. I have a separate video that goes through what Jukebox Plus can do, and I will see if I can figure out how YouTube puts the little card up at the top that tells you how to get to Jukebox Plus to see how that works. But that's useful when you are trying to find the right track to go with a particular scene. So that is Director. Once again, the high-level idea is this facilitates theater of the mind play by placing images and assets to a time and place where they can be easily accessed. It places backdrops on the map layer so they can't accidentally be interacted with. You can drag tokens over them. It places all of the images that are set for that scene off to the left where the players can't see them. It places any characters of that scene off to the right, again where the players can't see them. If you have a scene with a lot of characters, it will, let's see here, I have an Ashgard campaign that uses an awful lot of NPCs. There's a small group for every precinct house. If I set that, you can see there's a ton of characters in here. Let's go ahead and set that scene. It'll go ahead and it'll wrap if there's too many to fit comfortably. Let's go ahead and wipe that scene. And that is basically the idea behind Director. I hope this is useful to players who primarily play Theater of the Mind, and I'd appreciate any feedback on how this could be improved or other options added. So thank you very much for listening to this video that got a little bit long, and have fun exploring with Director.